Welcome back again to Educator.com. Thanks for continuing along to one of the most important lessons you'll ever have, good and bad reasoning. Now, like everything else with the critical thinking section, this is only an introduction. This is not exhaustive. This is not everything you need to know, but it is going to get you started and is going to get you going in the right direction. So please follow along and pay attention. So, for this lesson, we'll go over a quick overview first. I'm going to give you some general rules about, arguments and rules and, just kind of stuff that's generally conventions and things about debates and arguments and, conflicting issues and stuff like this. And then we're going to go over those types of empirical evidence. Now, you remember what empirical means is it means that something that you get by the senses. And then after we go over types of evidence you might use, we're going to go over the rational part of our thinking selves. And we'll be thinking about how we put evidence together into an argument that makes sense. After all, just giving evidence by itself and something that you get by your senses doesn't really mean anything unless you actually arrange it in a certain way. And then the really fun part, the fallacies. Fallacies are when somebody tries to use logic, but they mess up somehow. And I'll be helping you spot those so that you won't be so suckered by, people, doing things like name calling and other bad things when they're trying to convince you of something. After all this, you are going to be preparing your own argumentative paper. We'll be learning how to organize it, and that'll probably be one of the most important and hopefully one of the most fruitful classes and papers you ever write. So, what is an argument? Well, this is kind of what I mean. Reasons plus conclusions equals argument. Now, when I say argument, do I mean, people fighting? Do I mean people going to fisticuffs over an issue? Do I mean, people name-calling or being mean or, God forbid, shouting at each other? No, that's not what I mean by argument at all. What I mean by argument in this context for this lesson is it just means giving good reasons to believe a conclusion. Okay, that is all what I mean by arguing or argument here. Giving good reasons to believe a conclusion. Argument doesn't have to be a bad word. In normal speech, it normally is. But for the sake of this lesson and for the sake of, learning how to think critically, it just means giving good reasons to believe a conclusion. Now, one of the most important things we got to learn, one of the most general rules, is this idea called burden of proof. If you remember this rule, you'll be able to avoid a lot of, issues and controversies and maybe debates that you don't want to be involved in. Burden of proof. Let's read this carefully. Miss Scarlett is on trial for the murder of Mr. Body. Is she guilty? The prosecutor says, yes, she is guilty. And the defense attorney says, no, she is innocent. Now think about that. Imagine you're in the courtroom, and you're seeing the prosecutor do some stuff, and you're seeing the defense attorney say some stuff. Who has to prove their case? The prosecutor, the defense attorney, or both? It turns out only the prosecutor has to prove anything. And here's why.